City Council meeting, Part 2 for the afternoon. And our next it's next ordinance. Let's see, we're on D. Is that correct? An ordinance of the City of Vero Beach, Florida, amending the Code of the City of Vero Beach, Chapter 62, Non-Residential Districts, Article 3, by creating Section 62.36 to provide for planned development as a conditional use in the C1A and C1 commercial zoning districts. Creating Article 16, planned developments, providing for minimum eligibility requirements, providing for conditional use requirements and minimum performance and development standards, providing for waivers from development standards that demonstrate and promote a public benefit, providing for conflict and severability, providing for an effective date, requested by the planning director. This would have to come toward us for 2 public hearings on 9/17 and for 10/1. And this was requested by the planning director, Mr. McGarry.
Hey, thank you. Vice Chair, or Chair, Mayor. Whatever.
Vice Mayor.
The draft ordinance was prepared to facilitate infill mixed development in Vero Beach. The ordinance established planned development as conditional use in the C1 and C1A districts, excluding the Cardinal Drive, Ocean Drive, because they already have some specific standards. The genesis of the concept comes from to assist the development of the Hampton Inn and Suites at 6th Avenue. We worked closely with Mr. Kite's consulting team when initially we prepared an ordinance several years ago on this, and it finally made it through the process at this point in time as they're ready to go ahead with the hotel. The new Article 14 in Chapter 62 establishes the purpose, the minimum eligibility requirements, review process, conditional use provisions, performance and development standards, and waivers and development regulations. So briefly, the features: to be eligible, you have to have at least 50,000 square feet of area. It allows parcels to be separated by right-of-way of 70 feet or less. So in our ordinance, if you're separated by right-of-way, you generally are not part of the same project. So there's a lot of implications for that that assists in development. All the development, though, will be under one development order. So the project must meet specific minimum standards. However, the most important element in the proposed ordinance gives authority to the Planning and Zoning Board in improving planned developments to grant waivers from parking, sign, open space, setback, wall and fence, and floor area requirements. However, these waivers have to meet specific criteria, and the applicant must prove or demonstrate that these waivers are needed to provide public benefits, such as right-of-way improvements, pedestrian linkages, higher stormwater standards, and the use of desirable architectural and building and site design standards in doing that. So if there are any questions regarding that?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ms. Turner.
No, go ahead.
I do have one concern. You mentioned the stormwater drainage. On this particular site, there has been concern for years of the stormwater throughout that area, and with the removal of the Osceola Elementary, will this then cause increased standards to apply to this property?
Well, this property would automatically have to be standards that we adopted because it'll be a substantial improvement. What the waivers in here would allow them in return for even higher stormwater standards to have some sort of waiver until we know the project. So they will have to meet our new standards because there's any substantial improvements required to do that. And
would a redevelopment of the Osceola school site fall then within these new regulations if that occurs?
Once Osceola developed whatever it is, it will have to meet those new standards, yes.
Do we have any other questions or concerns from the council or the staff?
Seeing none, I would like to move for public hearing for September the 17th.
Second.
Ms. Bach?
And October 1st, this one will take two public hearings.
Okay, well, amend the motion then for 2 public hearings. September the 17th and 10.
Thank you. Mr. Winger?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mrs. Turner?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Carroll?
Yes. And thank you, Mr. McGarry. This is I have, and many members of the council have asked that we assist in the redevelopment of properties throughout our area in order to bring more businesses and more jobs to our area. And this is one step along that method. So thank you. All right, we'll go on to E, an ordinance of the City of Vero Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 76, Historic Preservation of the City of Vero Beach Code to meet the requirements of the Florida Certified Local Government Program and to make minor editorial changes in the content and formatting of the text, providing for conflict and severability, providing for an effective date. This will come to a hearing on September the 17th, a public hearing, and this was requested by the Planning Director.
Thank you. This is the ordinance that we'll need to come in compliance to be a certified local government. We believe we've met all of the requirements, but we need to adopt this ordinance. It's already been pre-approved by the State Historic Preservation Officer, and it's been through both the Historic Preservation Commission and the Planning and Zoning Board. So we had to incorporate requirements to meet that eligibility. We also made some changes in the designation process because it was supposed to be a quasi-judicial, but the way it was written, it was kind of quasi-discretionary. So we brought that in line. So other than that, there aren't really any other major changes. Hopefully it reads better than the existing ordinance.
Council, do we have any questions or concerns?
Just to state, thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Just want to say that the only reason that we're able to get certified as a local government program is because when we constituted the historical
That's correct.
commission to require it to be city-only residents. So, thank you, and
I do have a question. Mr. McGarry, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's okay, I was going to make
Okay, Mr. McGarry, I have a question. Under the background, it states that the Certified Local Government Program was enacted by Congress and that the program encourages and provides incentives to local governments to protect historical resources. What types of incentives are offered?
Well, there's grant programs. Normally they come through the state office, and one of the things we'll be looking at, we need to do an updated survey of our historic properties. It hadn't been since 1990. The only updates we've had were the two that were done for the planning department in the Osceola and Original Town. So we get higher priority and for these kind of things if we are certified. So those are some of the type of grants we can get.
For instance, the old power site, when or if that returns back to the city's control, we could utilize that as a historic property for the with grant funding from perhaps this program.
That is correct. It is on the National Historic Site, it's fine.
It's there, and that's a possibility. Those are tougher ones to get because of the amount of money involved generally in it. But yes, we would be eligible for that.
Great. Thank you.
Make a motion to move this to public hearing for September the 3rd.
Second.
September 17th. And the only reason was that our September 3rd meeting was getting pretty heavy, so we moved some of these to the September 17th meeting.
Okay, I noticed you did that in the other one. I wasn't sure if there was
Yeah,
any
that was
specific
the
reason with
reason.
Mr. Kite's availability or something else that we were trying to.
No, in his case is we're slow to. They have to go through the morning you'll be seeing. So there's several things they have to still do. So it's not going to hold them up any.
Okay, but for these last two, we want to go for the September the 17th meeting, Ms. Bach?
For this one and the last one, number F,
Okay.
will go for the 3rd.
Amend the
Make
motion.
it confusing.
And the second.
Mr. Winger?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mrs. Turner?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Carroll?
Yes. Matter F, an ordinance of the City of Vero Beach, Florida, providing that the Code of the City of Vero Beach be amended to add a new Chapter 79 entitled Advertisement Space on Municipal Property, providing for the sale of advertisement space on municipal property, providing for conflict and severability, providing for an effective date, requested by the Recreation Director. And this would be to move forward for a September the 3rd public hearing.
Recreation Director is here, but it has gone in front of the Recreation Commission. This is to put advertising on the lifeguard stands. We have talked to the vendor who provide the advertisement in the Go Line buses. We have looked at the contracts and the proposals at the county and the restrictions they placed on these type of advertising. And so this would allow us to do this type of promotion if the council so wishes. It is another fundraising effort in order to be able to offset some of the cost in operation. We've got to remember each lifeguard stand at each beach is approximately $220,000 a year.
I'm sorry, it's approximately $220,000 value that it could.
No, that's the cost of operating the stands, telling you that trying to offset some of those costs. Now, this would be, what is it, in the neighborhood of $3,000 a month? Rob's got more than
And
that.
also, Rob, do we have some type of a photograph of what the stands would look like with the advertising on them?
We do.
I thought I saw that somewhere.
There's some in the back. Rob Slezak, Recreation Director. There should hopefully be some in there, a picture
I
or
didn't
two
see anything in the
in
back.
there. And to let you know, the amount that they had proposed, they were looking at more like
Can we put that on the
11 to 13,000 a year
39.
for the three towers. 11
sorry.
to 13.
11 to
13,000 for the
With
three
some at the very
towers.
bottom.
Per year,
Per
per
year.
tower, or all three towers?
Roughly 1,000 a month.
Jim, for
per
discussion.
tower? I'm sorry, was that
11 to 13 total. $1,000 per month for the three towers.
Okay.
Jim, for discussion.
Yeah, there was a picture in there.
This is rather widely drawn, I believe, in that it would allow us to go beyond the lifeguard, you to go beyond the lifeguard station as written. Is that correct?
It would allow, what it is the enabling legislation for advertising, and any contract obviously would have to be approved by the city council, but it would allow for city council to go beyond the lifeguard stands.
Also, if you go to page 17, which is page whatever of the document, it's page 10 of the document. It allows for 3 years, and I'm not. I'd rather have some sort of a sunset before years. Let me go a different place on it for discussion. I think we all know what the high school field looked like, and it's been improved. I think Mayor Fletcher was part of limiting the signs. I do not know the signs on the lifeguard stands as a trial doesn't bother me. But then if we start having signs on the fence at Con Beach, or we have them at Leisure Square or whatever, at some point they would bother me. So the question here is two questions: 3 years, and then how can we restrict this to a trial? I mean, I don't think the community, even though this will be heard one more time, this is a completely new idea in the community. The community hasn't had a chance to understand what could happen as a result. So I'd like your comment on that.
My comment is it is a new idea in the community, no question about it. I think the 3 years, because the vendor has told us he has a cost recovery issue, we probably could build something in where we could buy him out if we chose to do that in a shorter period of time in which to do it. Any other type of advertising, again, would have to be under contract and would come back to the city council for any approval if it went to another location. But that in our discussions, and Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, but the 3 years was his cost recovery of promoting and selling the advertising. It's a screen type of, it's not a banner like you see at the high school. It's a colored screen.
It's air permeable so that it won't be subject to the wind.
That is correct.
Wind area.
And then we would build into the contract, which they have at the goal line, where the maintenance would be totally his.
Yeah.
And we also have in there that the committee would approve whatever signage goes on and the type of advertising. Again, using the goal line as the example, they have built into their contract things that cannot be put onto the goal line bus or inside the goal line bus.
Well, let me draw your attention to page 1 of the ordinance, which is page 2 of the documentation. What it talks about is lifeguard stands, but all other manner of city property that signs could be put on. Mm-hmm. I have trouble with that at this stage. I mean, we do not know what the community thinks about this. Somehow or another, we've got to limit this to this, and we've got to learn about it. So I would not be in favor of this resolution as written. I'm not against the lifeguard stands, but this
Jim,
is
why
rather too
was
broad
the-
for me.
Mr. O'Connor, why were the additional types of city property added to this at this point?
What we were looking at is the ordinance would be the enabling legislation if something else came forward for the city council to consider.
However, each particular usage of this ordinance would need to come before the city council?
Yes, because it'd be under contract.
So Mr. Winger, nothing else could be passed unless it came forward to us.
Well, it says municipal lifeguard stations, equipment, vehicles, solid waste containers, other municipal property. Well, other municipal properties all over town. I guess I would like language in this specifically stating that each application of signs has to have our approval rather than it just be understood that it's going to be a contract.
Isn't that a given, Mr. O'Connor?
It's not a given for me. I'll vote against it without language.
But you can put in there any contract has to come to city council with an advertising agent.
Fine.
I have no problem with that.
I can accept it that way. Otherwise, I will not.
And in no way are we guaranteeing that the particular vendor who has came forward is the one that would receive the contract, are we?
No, we will do an RFP.
Okay.
And he understands that. He gave us a lot of his knowledge and that kind of stuff, but he does realize we will do an RFP on this.
Make a motion for a hearing on September the 17th. This ordinance as amended, stating that any other contract would come to council.
Second.
Ms. Vaughn, do we have this scheduled for the 3rd instead of the 17th?
We did have it scheduled for the 3rd, but I don't think that there's any rush, and we can put it on the 17th. So it's fine. Mr. Winger?
Yes, thank you for your indulgence.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mrs. Turner?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Carroll?
Yes. And that will be with the modification as Mr. Winger has requested. All right. We're moving on to city clerk's matters.
We have a reduction of a code enforcement lien, and I think Mr. McGarry is going to cover this. You're up again.
We're requesting a lien. There's a lien on the property at 1911 9th Avenue. The lien right now to get out of the lien, and the total cost is $16,880.85. I don't know how much detail you want me to go into the property, but it's located in a mixed-use zone. It's a single-family house, and the major problems with it were grass and debris and all that, and it took a while to come into compliance. Eventually did come into compliance, and I think last year at this time, not last year, December, they had foreclosure of the property, and then a certificate of title was issued to the Bank of America, which owns it now. What has happened since that time, what held this up, is we did an inspection of the property, and we found the house was not meeting the standard housing code. We have not cited them because the understanding is it was going to transfer ownership to the new person. They've got an individual ready to buy the property. So the intent was to go through with the lien reduction, and at that time we would cite the person. They already know what they have to do in the property because we have identified all the elements that have to be improved. So basically, it's a straightforward thing as we've done. Normally when the list of pendants is filed, that's when we believe the bank takes over responsibility. Mm-hmm. The problem was, in this case, our staff was not aware of that till later, so I did some modifications to give it, even though the bank should be doing it, but I'm just following what we have in there. There's no straight rule in this, but I try to be fair to both the property owner and to the city and how we apply this thing. So unless you have any specific questions of me, we did a calculation, and we're recommending $5,780.85 as the lien, which is 1/3 approximately of what it is.
Mr. McGarry, is that calculation that you made based on the rules that this council set a few months back?
Well, I'm following the ordinance, and the ordinance says you have to look at factors. There's no specific formula you have, meaning you all could decide, zero if you want to, but we have a system we've set up in the ordinance that basically I go through the analysis, the factors, the manager signs off on the report, And clearly, you could disagree with some of those things and come up. You have the full authority. It's just intended to give you enough background to make a decision on whatever you feel is in the best interest of the city. And we've repeatedly stated that even when these banks take it over, there should be some responsibility. If we don't do that and they don't pay anything, then they're not going to do anything. So,
Right.
But we want to be fair enough, get these properties back tax rolls, get them occupied, and get them to stop being an eyesore in their neighborhood. So you have to weigh all those, and what that is, I wish I had a magic formula that could do that.
So for the numbers right now, we show that code enforcement fees are $16,880.
Yes, that includes the enforcement cost, penalty, the continuing penalty, and the recording administrative fees.
The current owners are asking to pay only 10% of that, $1,688.
That's correct.
And you're stating that what you feel should be due is $5,780.
That's correct.
So of those three numbers, this council is to come up with a number. Pretty much sum it up.
That's what you do. I'm glad I don't have to do that.
Council, just wanted to throw all those numbers out. I believe we have a member of the public who would like to speak.
I'm just here. My name is Steve Reinick. I'm representing the bank. Let me go ahead and speak.
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Your name and address, please.
Sure, Steve Reinick. Home address is 1271 Vintage Drive in VERO. Obviously, this wasn't an exciting listing to get, little junky house in downtown. But just so you know, we had it under contract for only $19,000. Now it's reduced to $15,000. So if you can kind of keep that in perspective when you're judging the lien reduction, $5,000 or so would be a third of the purchase price. So,
Steve, what is the lot size?
it is nothing large. Let's see if I have that handy here. Okay. 8,777 square feet.
And the dimensions of the lot?
That might take me a minute because I've got a pretty thick file. The smaller the deal, the harder they are.
Wasn't it about 50 by...
Jeez.
I mean, I know it's just a little postage stamp.
It's a small lot here. Yeah, 61 by 151.
Okay. And in terms of the square footage of the house, I'm sorry, not in the square footage, in terms of the code violations that are currently there, would someone really need to tear that down and rebuild, or are they going to try to rebuild?
It's close. It's a very hard home to find a buyer for. It's assessed in the low 30s, and we actually put it on the market for 35 and zero interest. So it was almost being valued as lot value minus the demolition of the home, but it is savable, and the buyer that we have now is intending on bringing it back up. So it's not going to be pretty, but it'll be habitable and better.
And Mr. McGarry, does this in any way fall under a historic property?
I don't think so. You wouldn't want
No.
Okay, I just want to make sure because it is within our downtown area.
It is, yep. Yeah, 9th Avenue, 1900 block.
Okay.
But I don't think there's any historical significance.
All right, thank you.
Is $32,000, is that a reasonable market price for this property?
No, that was high. The bank was ill-advised because they were taking the tax assessment value in mind when they priced it. But then, this was January, and it took us several months to find a buyer at 19, and that was lucky. And now we're at 15 because we almost lost a buyer. And there's really no other replacement buyer. So we want to try to save this and close it and get it done, if at all possible. But obviously the bank wants me here as their representative to try to get the lowest lien, obviously, since it's such a low purchase price. They're taking a pretty big hit. I think the original loan on this home was over $100,000. Mm-hmm. Not that that's anything, unusual, but $5,000 on a $15,000 purchase is pretty high, even though it's much better than the original lien of $16,000. So thank you. We would have been negative.
Does any member of the council have a suggestion?
It kind of behooves me that perhaps there should be some type of a lien amount that is, kind of a floor that's a percentage of the property value. Good grief, getting into 38 and 52% of the property value, we're not going to encourage anybody to do anything with those properties, but let them sit and incur more penalties.
The other side of that is that we've got to have some cost recovery, and what happens is there's the people will hang on till it gets down to zero, and then trying to find the appraised value. I mean, just because his market is that he can only sell for sell for $15,000. Is that the true number? Just because they happen to have a buyer? So
Well, you can always go off of appraised value. I'm just saying that incentive-wise, I mean, once it gets down to a certain point, penalties are irrelevant. They just walk away.
Now, remember, these kind of liens are strictly a debt owed to the city, and that's why it's strictly in the discretion of the council to make a decision on what, if any, reduction that you would agree to. And as Tim said, you can go to zero if you want. You can say no reduction, or you can say, well, forgive all of it. It's entirely up to the council and your discretion.
And the last thing we need to take into consideration is setting a precedent. And we have discussed that numerous times over the last 3 years.
Absolutely, and I think as we're seeing more foreclosed property, and owners not taking the code enforcement seriously, letting them continue to deteriorate. I think if you give them too much relief, then you're rewarding those that don't do it. I would suggest we go forward with staff's recommendation of $5,780.
Can I make one more comment? Is that okay? I'm sorry. Now I lost my train of thought here. You know what? Never mind. I can't think what I was going to say, so never mind. Sorry.
Well, you could take your time.
Do we have a second?
Well, I guess I'm not going to make a comment until there's a second.
It's okay. Go ahead. I'm done.
I just remember working in bankruptcy. There's always that phrase that if I owe you a little bit of money, I've got or you've got a problem. If you owe me a lot of money, I've got a problem. Sure. The more money that people have to pay on these things, the more likelihood it becomes our problem, and we have to do something about it. So
I just remember now, if that's okay. One more thing. When, just for the record, I believe the bank was formally notified in December, and within 30 days roughly, in January it was brought into compliance. So it wasn't, sitting there unattended for a long time, of course, based on the timeline on the form I was given. So, although that's no excuse, the prior owner obviously let it go for many years, and it's terrible.
Mr. McGarry, I believe you had a comment to make?
Yeah. Once they went into a Liz penance, that proceeding started. The bank had responsibility along with the owners at that time, and normally, like Bank of America has a property management, and they do take care of the properties. This one they didn't do. But as I said, I cut some slack there because our staff didn't have that information. Did not notify the bank till December, and we should have been on top of it. For some reason, we didn't have that information. So.
And the true cost to the city and expenditures would have been how much?
I didn't calculate one of those. I mean, I'd have to look at the number of the man days and everything else. We did is just strictly based on the dates of when the Liz penance started and when they were notified, and did half of that. I did not get into that. From a standpoint of the staff, we did not spend, obviously, $16,000. But, again, these are civil penalties, and there's a reason why we have civil penalties to bring people into compliance.
Understood.
Okay.
Vice Mayor, for discussion, I think a third of this selling price of $15,000, which is $5,000, is enough. I'm close to Mrs. Turner. I can live with either number, but that's my suggestion.
So your suggestion is what number, sir?
A third of the selling price of $5,000. I mean, I'm just picking a number, playing God, and really have no right.
I will second that. Is there any discussion?
So the first motion failed.
Yes.
So now we're on
5,000. Yeah.
Okay.
I'd accept that, and as we move forward.
Okay. All those in favor of a $5,000 penalty?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm opposed.
Okay. Votes 3-1. Ms. Falk, other items?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on then to city manager's items.
The first is an award of a contract to Ranger Construction. We put this out to bid. They were the recommended contractor under this. What we're asking for is for the council to approve this pending us receiving grant funds. It's another one of those conditions. We've been told grant funds are coming. We have not received it in writing. We would not award the contract and start the work until the grant funds are assured.
I would go with approval of award once we receive grant funds.
I'll second.
I have a question. Why does this not require a resolution as the other funding items for the airport did?
This is actually a companion to the resolution authorizing
I see.
the grant, acceptance of the grant.
Right. All right, we have a motion and we had a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The work order agreement between the City of Vero Beach and Recondo Associates Airport Master Plan, it's a similar situation, and it is a companion.
Any discussion on this item? Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Stand ready for any questions that the council or mayor may have, vice mayor in this case.
Any points of discussion to bring up with our city manager at this time?
I asked him by email for one.
Yeah, you're talking about the Judy Orcutt and her information. We are working on the brochure. She and I were in conversation along with the vice mayor, and that probably will be on the agenda September the 17th on the brochure, the raising of the funds. We know that we have at least 50% of it now. Ms. Orcutt will be here on the 17th at that meeting, and then we are planning on the 3rd. The brochure will be on the 3rd, and on the 17th, there'll be another presentation. Judy Orcutt has got a person to come and sort of give you a briefing on the lagoon as well.
Jim, I'm sorry for the noise. Tangential, I believe the county commission was meeting today on fertilizer. Isn't that true?
That's what the newspaper says, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Very well. Are there any other items, sir?
No, that's all I have.
All right, we'll move on to the city attorney's matters.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And I didn't have it on the agenda, but there's something I wanted to discuss with the council. As most people know, the Florida Bar licenses and regulates lawyers and the practice of law in the state of Florida. The Florida Bar's Board of Legal Specialization and Education is charged with identifying for the public and legal profession those attorneys who have substantial experience and have demonstrated special knowledge, skills, and proficiency in certified areas of practice, professionalism, and ethics in the practice of law. To be certified in city, county, and local government law, a lawyer must be a member in good standing of the Florida Bar. They must have practiced law for at least 5 years. They must have substantial involvement in the practice of city, county, and local government law during the 3 years preceding application for specialization. They must pass a peer review by the Board of Legal Specialization. They must have completed at least 60 hours of continuing legal education in the field of city, county, and local government law within the 3 years immediately preceding the application. And last but not least, the lawyer must take and pass a 6-hour comprehensive written examination demonstrating special knowledge, skills, and proficiency in the practice of city, county, and local government law, as well as in professionalism and ethics in the practice of law. In Florida, as of July 1st of this year, there were over 96,559 lawyers in the state of Florida licensed by the Florida Bar. Of that 96,000 plus members, only 232 are certified in city, county, and local government law. And I'm very happy and proud to tell you that our own Peggy Lyon just recently passed her exam and is certified in city, county, and local government law.
Congratulations. Congratulations, Peggy. Would you like to come up and say a few words?
Thank you so much. Peggy Lyon, Assistant City Attorney. I'd really like to thank Wayne for encouraging me to take this step. Carol Giroux, who was really instrumental in finding the money in the budget for me to take the exam, and just the whole city staff. I mean, Paul Mills put the exam materials onto my computer so I could take the exam by computer. It was just a group effort. And my kids say I am now certifiable. Officially. Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Peggy.
Congratulations.
Should we be concerned there are 96,000 attorneys in one small state?
That's not on our agenda.
Wayne, how many are in jail?
Right.
Was there anything else?
That's it. Thank you.
All right. We'll move on to, there were no other items under City Council matters under either old or new business. Tammy? We'll move on to Mayor Craig Fletcher. As you all know, he was excused today, and the couple matters that I have, I'm truly excited that this region and our city are currently receiving a substantial amount of press in terms of what's going on with our lagoon. We have continued to be in communication with areas of the state government as well as looking at the nation to try to help us out with the horrible things that are happening with our lagoon, and we appreciate the members of our community, the members of our local governments, as we work together to try to bring some type of response to this. And I appreciate our staff as well, because I know some of our staff have been working on looking at the various components that locations within our city could be contributing to the pollution that we're seeing. So I appreciate all of that. And I wanted to let everyone know that in addition, various members of the Treasure Coast Council of Local Governments are looking at the All Aboard Florida issues that I brought up a few times, and that is with the trains as they continue on the decisions that will bring the 32 trains a day coming up and down through our downtown corridor, and how the cities can work together with the All Aboard Florida to reduce the amount of noise and congestion that these trains will bring without disrupting the lives of the children who are in schools next to the trains and the businesses throughout our area. That's the only two things I have.
Thank you.
And let's see, next we have Pilar.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Wanted to first say that I will be attending an FMPA board meeting and ARP executive meeting on Thursday in Orlando. I'd like to invite everybody out on this Saturday, to Riverside Park between 9 and 1. They'll be doing an educational thing on the lagoon. There'll be games for kids, material. If you have any question about what you can do to help save our lagoon, it's a great opportunity for you to go and get some information. Also on Saturday at Indian River Mall, the lifeguards will be having a fundraiser at Macy's. You can pick up a discount card there, and funds will go to support our lifeguards. A reminder that on Friday, August the 30th, hope to see you all in downtown VERO Beach for our Main Street evening. Thank you.
Well, it's been a real busy last couple of weeks. We started with the gallery stroll. My hope is that come this season, everybody will get a chance to get out and do a gallery stroll. The artists are coming back into season. The galleries are getting larger, and we have a lot more participants, and that'll be something to look forward to this season. Also, I don't know whether I should probably tell anybody about this, but we went to the Buggy Bunch food truck frenzy, because I figured everybody was there anyway. This was the first time that I have actually seen food vendors stay busy from the moment that they opened until the moment they closed. There were lines at just about every food vendor. And I got to say a huge thank you to Kelly and Allison for putting that on. And I was there I wasn't there the whole time. I was standing in line, which seemed like the whole time. But for being out of season to have such an event like that really takes talent. Also, I have to say a big thank you for the rec department. They had their aerial antic circus. I think this one was a little bit bigger than it was last year. But the rec department put on an absolutely wonderful job, and I'm hoping next year they'll do just as well, if not better. They really put a lot of effort into it. Main Street Vero Beach is still working on their plans, improving the downtown, working on the business improvement district, and they're gearing up for this fall for some of their events. At their meeting, got a chance to talk to them. They're very fired up about that. We still have our rec fundraising committee, which I think we're starting to talk about. Of course, I don't think the signs went through that. I think that went through a different channel. But we are...
The chairs.
Oh, the chairs. We have so many things for the fundraising committee. I'm glad that we have so many committees that are really looking after the recreation department. It's a really important part. And then finally, we're the enterprise zone with the county. We're looking at expanding that into other areas to give everybody the opportunity to have an enterprise zone closer to their area. And without that, I'll go.
The only comment I have, I also attended aerobatics, and there were 240 or 50 participants. They did a really, really good job. The enthusiasm. I was there, I think, on the second night. The place was crammed. Rob told me that, he defeased all costs. And, it's wonderful to see those kids involved in a city program. I was most impressed with it. That's all I have, Madam Vice
Dick,
Mayor.
I left off youth sailing because I thought you were going to talk about that.
I did the same thing, Madam Vice Mayor.
Oh,
Come on,
yeah.
get a pitch in for you sailing day.
Yes, this Saturday at... I have it on my
Thursday.
calendar.
It's Thursday, the 20th, right before.
No, it isn't.
Saturday night.
It's Saturday, I believe, at 5,
6.
is it not?
Yeah, 5 or 6.
5 o'clock.
5 to 6. And it is at the...
Yeah.
At the yacht club, not at the yacht club, but at the sailing club, which is
sailing
at
club.
the water treatment plant.
And that's a fundraiser for
It's a
youth sailing.
fundraiser, and it's well worthwhile. I understand from Charlie that he had quite a productive summer with the summer camp over at the moorings, and that's a good thing. We will not begin scheduled sailing until towards the end of September, as far as the regular program that goes September through May.
And I understand they were able to purchase a handful of 420s, so now that the teens can actually get out there and sail as well.
Yes, we have, I think, 7 operational 420s. And one of the difficult things, sailing is a very difficult sport, maybe one of the most demanding. Certainly, I won't say it is the most demanding. You can see that in San Francisco Bay right now with the America's Cup. But it's a good thing when they get to the 420s because they become regenerative. In other words, they start learning by being at the helm, and they start being able to teach one another. Some of the smaller ones, to get them, to that stage where they just don't sail backwards is a bit of a challenge. That's what I've been working on, and I find it a challenge.
Well, I just want to thank everyone. The great event that happened Saturday night with the Buggy Bunch. Jim and I had a conversation about this Monday morning. It's just showed our nonprofits in this community that they can have events during the summer and they can be successful. We don't have to worry that the city of Vero Beach closes down during the summer anymore because people are here, the families are here, and they're ready for fun things to do. So thank you to everyone who went out. We hope to have more events like that coming up throughout our slow season, the rest of that during September, October, until our friends from the north arrive back. So with that, we'll close this meeting, and thank you all for everything you've done today. Thank you.